Hello, and welcome to Swift Mini Painting. This is episode 2 of the Hate Painting series. Today we will be painting the Vore Nash Champion. I began, like in episode 1, by cleaning the model and then giving it a zenithal prime. It should be noted I primed this model twice. I primed it once, tested out a paint scheme, then I did not strip the paint, I just primed over the paint, and that is going to cause a problem later on. My first step will be to apply Warcolours Brown 3 on all the straps on the miniature. This will include the little bit of belt that is visible, as well as what little bit of the belt can be seen. It took 2 coats to bring the brown to a nice rich color. I am now using Warcolours 1 Coat Gold on all of the metallic parts of the miniature. The thigh armor, the bits of metal on the belt, and the rings that attach them to the leather, the chains as well as the collar, and the meat hooks, as well as the little bit of metal on the bottom of each leather strap on the rear of the miniature. When the first coat appeared dry, I put on another coat. I say appeared because you'll see I have trouble with this gold paint later on in the video. The gold was looking good at this stage. Next up, I'm going to begin working on the skin, and this is where the real trouble begins. I mix together black shade, violet shade, and marine shade from Warcolours. I use 1 part violet, 2 parts marine, 3 parts black, and 3 parts water to make this mix. It didn't seem to be going on right, so I added some matte medium. The paint would bead and it wouldn't spread or glaze over the miniature. It wanted to stay together. After doing some Googling on the topic, it seems that I may have overly smoothed the miniature by priming over a paint job. And when I was thinking back to how I primed the miniature, I used an airbrush. I was applying it quickly, perhaps not leaving enough time for 1 coat to dry before doing another coat of the primer, and I was blasting it with air to speed up the drying time, which may have smoothed it even further. Not entirely certain, but that may be the culprit here, as explaining why the paint isn't sticking, or the glaze in this case. Eventually I found I could just smash the paint into the miniature. So I got an old wrecked brush and applied the paint liberally and with rough brush strokes, and eventually the water tension would break enough that it would spread across the miniature. It did not, using that method, I could not do controlled very thin coats of paint, so the skin ended up being much darker than on the prints in episode 1. I'm now mixing white, flesh 3, and cool gray 3 from Warcolours in about equal amounts to create an off-white for the bones and the nails on the champion. I am now thinning my off-white into a glaze with water on my wet palette, and I'm going to be glazing it on. As before, when I am applying the glaze, I am loading the brush up and then touching it to a paper towel to wick away most of the moisture before moving to the model, so that the paint goes on in an even layer and does not pool in any recess. I am applying this too to the pecs, shoulders, and the top of the biceps. I was attempting to kind of lighten those areas up. I am also highlighting some of the abdominal muscle. I am now mixing Cool Gray 3 and Marine Shade to paint the 6 tassels that hang from the belt of the champion. After that, I'm moving back to my off-white and glazing it onto parts of the face to pick them out and highlight them. Then I realize he has little toothy bits on his abdomen, so I paint those in with the off-white. The little straps over the tassels I paint with brown 3. I am now going back to my poor Inktense Red from Scale Color. I'm going to be mixing the red metallic that I used on the prince. I will first attempt to open the bottle with a little pin and fail. I'm then mixing Brassy Brass from Vallejo Game Color and Scale Color Inktense Red, again to make that reddish, brownish armor. And I'm only using this on one very small part of the champion, just on his tabard area in front. And I do finally manage to open my ink properly. The champion had been a little bit bumpy. I'd primed him twice. The skin glaze didn't go on properly. And now I moved on to the flesh shade wash. Just like I washed the prince in episode 1, I was going to apply that same wash to the champion to give it that kind of earthy look and a little more life color. And this is where my troubles really begin. Unbeknownst to me, as I'm applying the wash, the 1-coat gold is coming up, and I am spreading glittery metallic flecks all over the miniature. I don't notice this until the whole thing has dried. It is as I move on to doing the face paint on the mini with yellow 3 that I realize the model is shiny all over, and that parts of the gold on the mini are now gray. For instance, on the thigh plate, much of the gold came off and you can see streaks of gray. Despite this, I soldier on a bit longer and do some face paint under the eyes and on the top of the head, building it up in several thin layers. I'm using a little white to brighten up the teeth. At this point, I am hoping that I can spray the model with Tester's Dull Coat and knock down on the shine from the metallic flecks all over the mini. I am using Turquoise 3 for the eye color. The eye on this model is very small, so even with a brush with a very fine tip, I was finding that I was painting more than the eye. So what I did is I cleaned my brush off, had a little water on it, and just kind of erased wherever the turquoise was that was not in the eye. Warcolours dries quite slowly, so it was easy to do. Paints that dry quickly, you'll have to erase more quickly. I use a little black shade to darken the spaces between the teeth. That's it for the champion. I'm moving now to basing him. I didn't like how on the prince's base, after I used Agrellan Earth, it cracked up and I could see a little bit of the white base underneath it in the cracks. So I'm using some brown 3 to darken the champion's base before I apply Agrellan Earth. It turns out that this does not make much of a difference, but it was worth a try. Once the Agrellan Earth is all crusty, I give it a flesh shade all over the base. I give that about a day to dry, and then I sprayed the champion with Tester's Dull Coat, hoping that it would knock the shine out of the metallic flecks, as well as protect the model. I learned some things painting this model. Prime once and prime well, and really make sure your metallics are dry. That wraps up how I painted the Vore Nash champion. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below, and until next time, happy painting.